What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of JT Sports Live. I'm your host, JT, here to give my reactions to the madness that was week 11 of the NFL season. We were treated to an all-time classic tonight on Sunday Night Football. The Chargers barely find a way to walk out with the win at home against the Bengals. It was 27-6 early in the third quarter. The Chargers go up by another field goal, and you're telling yourself, man, is this really how the Bengals season is about to end? And then the Bengals, they come back, they tie the game up, and all of a sudden, you're saying to yourself, oh man, the Bengals just might save their season tonight. You know what they say, desperate men do desperate things, and the Bengals were playing like a desperate man tonight. Their defense played well in the second half, but it wasn't enough. Evan McPherson, the kicker that you gave an extension to before the season, he misses two critical field goals. You give Justin Herbert and company a chance to win, and not only do they drive down the field, get in the field goal range, but they add insult to injury by going ahead and scoring a touchdown thanks to J.K. Dobbins' late TD run. And the Bengals now walking out with their heads low. Meanwhile, the Chargers continue to surge at the right time of the season. On this episode, I'm going to dive into the Bengals-Chargers matchup. We also got to discuss the Buffalo Bills giving the Chiefs their first L of the season. So the Chiefs actually aren't invincible. They actually can be beat. Bo Nix and the Broncos, wow. This team is rolling. Bo Nix is looking like the second coming of Drew Brees. He truly has arrived, and they've derailed the Falcons hype train. I thought that the Falcons were going to be somewhat of a dark horse Super Bowl contender, but not anymore after watching how this afternoon went. The New York Jets, for the first time in a while, we actually aren't going to be talking that much about the Jets, but we're going to be talking about what Anthony Richardson did coming off the bench. So all Anthony Richardson needed was a little bit of rest. All he needed was to be on the bench for a few weeks to be balling out like this, leading the Indianapolis Colts on a game-winning touchdown drive. I was not expecting Anthony Richardson to have this random explosion today. And the Ravens lost to the Steelers 18-16. It was a classic. It was a true rivalry game. You could feel the hate. It was nearly a fight after every single play. And the Ravens, I don't feel like they lost this game per se. I felt like they felt Lamar Jackson in this loss to Pittsburgh because, listen, Lamar held up his end of the bargain, but when you got guys getting their lunch money took, you got the most accurate kicker in NFL history, whiffing on 2 field goals in the first half, you can't blame Lamar for this loss. You got to put it all on his teammates, his supporting cast, the coaches, and you got to give kudos to the Pittsburgh Steelers for playing true to themselves. And there's a new MVP favorite, that being Josh Allen. I got some thoughts on that. The Chicago Bears just don't know how to win good, don't know how to beat good teams. I thought they was going to, be able to walk out with a win, kind of get their season heading back in the right direction against Green Bay, and all they do is miss the game-winning field goal. It gets blocked, and we got to have a serious conversation about these kickers in the NFL right now. This is the most underrated position in football. I know a lot of y'all probably aren't going to be that excited to hear me talk about kickers, but it's the most underrated position in football because we already know how important quarterback is to wins, but nobody really talks that much about how important kickers are to these wins and losses when a lot of these games are decided by less than a touchdown. And oftentimes you have a field goal kicker like we saw tonight miss 2 field goals, and it's the difference in you winning and losing. So shout out to everybody that's tuned in, wherever you're watching, YouTube, X, Facebook. Hit that like button, follow, subscribe, hit that bell icon if you're new so you get notified every time we go live and drop new content. And let's dive into it, man. I'm looking forward to this episode. We were treated to a classic on Sunday Night Football. The Chargers survived the Bengals 34-27. They improved to 7-3 on the season. And once they got out to that 27-6 lead after that field goal early in the third quarter, I thought this game was going to get really ugly from that point on. But the Bengals out of nowhere just scored 21 unanswered. T. Higgins, he was going off. Jamar Chase was going off. Chase Brown, their running back, had a crazy game. And the defense actually started to play really well. And it helped the Bengals get back into the game. They tied it up 27-27. And at that point, you have the feeling that the Bengals have came from down 27-6. They rally back. They tie it up. And now you think that they're about to roll to a win. But the Chargers were able to somewhat regain the momentum when Evan McPherson, the kicker who they recently gave an extension to before the season, misses 2 critical field goals. Justin Herbert and company, they get the ball back with a little bit of time to get in the field goal range and walk out with the win. And not only do they get in the field goal range, but they add insult to injury with J.K. Dobbins scoring the go-ahead touchdown, which eventually won the game for the Chargers. And Justin Herbert, he was in his bag tonight. In the first half, I saw this dude throw a crossbody touchdown to Quentin Johnston. He was making some big throws to Ladd McConkey. And on that final drive to win this game, he threw an absolute dart to Ladd McConkey. He's going near the left sideline. The dude ends up catching a clutch pass when Justin Herbert just puts it on an absolute rope. And the whole time I'm watching Justin Herbert tonight, I'm trying to figure out what people see in this dude that makes them say he's overrated. Because in my opinion, after what I watched tonight, not only is Justin Herbert an elite quarterback, but put this man in the MVP conversation. The expectations for the Chargers were not that high coming into this year outside of the fan base's expectation. Chargers fans knew how good this team was going to be, so it's no surprise that they've been as good as what they've been up to this point. But Justin Herbert, though, he has had a lot of games when he's taken over, he's put this team on his back, he's made a lot of Patrick Mahomes kind of throws that don't really get posted that much on social media. And Justin Herbert right now is the most underrated quarterback in the NFL. If you can watch this game tonight and your only takeaway is, oh, Justin Herbert, he's good, not great, you're a hater and you need to go get your eyes checked. Justin Herbert deserves a lot of credit for how good the Chargers have been. And a lot of y'all don't understand how rare it is for a guy who has to overcome so many head coaching changes to be this good. Most quarterbacks that have to go through 3-4 head coaches in their first 5 years in the league end up being bust. Look at what happened to Jameis Winston with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Look what happened with Marcus Mariota and the Tennessee Titans. The fact that Justin Herbert is balling out, having another head coach once again early into his career, he's only like 4 or 5 years in, shows you how good he is. He can still play at an elite level no matter how many different systems he has to learn every offseason, no matter how many new head coaches he gets. You got to give Justin Herbert his flowers for how well he played tonight. And moving forward, I believe the Chargers are one of the more dangerous teams in the AFC because they aren't going to make a Super Bowl run, but they could pull off an upset or two in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, and they could surprise us all by being in the AFC Conference Championship game. Now, they have a game coming up in a few weeks against the Baltimore Ravens. We get to see the Harbaugh Bowl between the 2 Harbaugh brothers. That's going to be a really interesting game to watch. I can't wait to see it. And the Cincinnati Bengals, this is a heartbreaking loss. It doesn't get more heartbreaking than this. Because you think that your season's over, you're not going to have any shot at winning this game down 27-6. All of a sudden, you rally and score 21 unanswered. You tie the game up. You came too far to lose the game at that point. if you're Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, or anybody else on that team, you're having that mentality. We got to do whatever it takes to win this game. We got to play like desperate men, because desperate men do desperate things. And you could tell Cincinnati was desperate because their defense actually chose to show up for the first time all season. This defense played well in the second half of this game, and they only gave up that touchdown to J.K. Dobbins in the end. But you know, when you pay Evan McPherson all that money before the season, him missing these two critical field goals is unexcusable. He's supposed to be one of the best kickers in the league. And there's been too many games this season that the Bengals have lost because this guy didn't hold up his end of the bargain. And the defense, you can't ask them to completely play well for the entirety of the second half. You knew eventually that the Chargers were going to end up putting some points up on the board, and this offense was going to have the ball in their hands if they were going to be able to walk away with this win. But unfortunately, if Evan McPherson doesn't miss those field goals, you probably end up winning this thing, because although the Chargers would have been able to score, it's only a 1-point game at that point. It's more easier with 18 seconds left to go for you to get in the field goal range, attempt a game-winning field goal, than it is to drive down the field and get a game-winning touchdown with that short amount of time. And the Cincinnati Bengals, at this point, the playoffs already have started for you after this loss. You have no room for error. You can still get into the playoffs going 10-7, but you're not going to get into the playoffs finishing 9-8. You got to win out. Your postseason starts now after this loss. For the Chargers, not only do I feel like you are one of the biggest sleeper teams in the league right now, but you still have a shot at winning the AFC West. The Kansas City Chiefs, with them losing to the Buffalo Bills this afternoon, we saw that this team is not invincible. They can be beat. And I feel the Chargers have a good enough team to be able to take down Kansas City and possibly win this division. I still see Kansas City finishing with 12, maybe 11 wins, and I could see the Chargers getting the 12 wins, because the Chargers, they're getting healthier by the week. You got Joey Bosa, who's healthy. Imagine how good you're going to be once you get Khalil Mack fully healthy. So this is a team that right now is hitting their stride at the right time during the season. You want to be playing your best football near Thanksgiving, and that's what the Chargers are doing. Expect this team to not only be in the playoffs, but to be a little bit of a disruptor in the postseason. They're going to pull off an upset or two, and we could see them in the AFC Championship, a team that nobody really expected to go that far before the season began. But there's always a team or two that kind of sneaks up on us out of nowhere, and they're better than what we expect them to be. That team this season, in my eyes, are the Chargers. If you haven't already, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you don't miss when we drop new content. If you're enjoying this episode so far, give us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast from. Apple, Spotify, Amazon. The JT Sports Podcast is available. Links are down in the description down below. Follow us on Instagram at JT Sports _ and on X at JT Sports __. If you got any questions, topics that you would like us to discuss on a future episode, you can send them in the DMs on Instagram at JT Sports _ and on X at JT Sports __. Let's move on. Somebody finally beat the Kansas City Chiefs. That team was the Buffalo Bills. They hand the Chiefs their first loss of the season, 30-21. And the reason why Buffalo won this game, why they were able to do what the rest of the league tends to not be able to do, is actually have the balls to put this team away. In the fourth quarter, Buffalo was up 23-21. And Sean McDermott had a big decision to make. Do you play it safe? Go for the field goal. If you make it, Kansas City has to engineer a touchdown drive to win it. Or do you risk going for it on 4th and 2, getting stopped, and all Kansas City needs is a field goal to win. What did Sean McDermott do? He went for the big boss decision. He goes forward on 4th and 2. And not only does it pay off, but that decision wins the game for Buffalo because Josh Allen rips off a 26-yard beast mode touchdown run to put the game on ice. And that was the play, the moment, the decision that won this game for the Bills and gave the Chiefs their first L of the season. We've seen so many times the Chiefs be in this situation where a team has them up against the ropes. They got a chance to deliver the final knockout blow, but they're just too scared to go for the final punch, and they end up losing. Look what happened to the Buccaneers. Look what happened to the Denver Broncos. The Buffalo Bills said, nah, if we're going to lose this game, we're going to get stopped on this 4th and 2. We're not going to lose this game playing it safe. And that's the mentality that you got to have when you play the Chiefs. This is not a team that you can just sit back and play it conservatively and say, we're going to rely on our defense to win. No, you have to win these games when you play Kansas City in the 4th quarter, and that's what the Buffalo Bills did. Not only did they get that big touchdown with Josh Allen on 4th and 2, but early in the 4th quarter, he also threw a touchdown to Curtis Samuel as well. So the Bills played their best in the 4th quarter as compared to other teams when they've lost to Kansas City. They tend to play their worst football in the 4th. That's what you got to do. That's what it takes to beat this team. You got to play in the 4th quarter your best football. It's a 4-quarter game when you play Kansas City. And for the majority of this ball game, it felt like the Bills were in control. Even when the Chiefs were able to get a slight lead on them, you still felt confident that the Bills were going to be able to pull off this win. You knew it wasn't going to be easy, but their defense was playing really well. Ed Oliver, he wasn't a guy that showed up a lot on the stat sheet, but if you watch the game, he made his presence felt. How about Von Miller? I don't know if this is his first game back from that suspension, but listen, he looks like he's going to be a big factor in the Bills when they make their playoff run this year. And when they signed Von Miller in free agency a few years ago, he was supposed to be the missing piece to them getting over the hump. He was supposed to be that X factor. Well, he's playing some of the best football at the tail end of his career. And the pressure that he was generating on Mahomes late in this game was a large reason why the Bills were able to clutch up and get some big-time stops late in this game. Von Miller was on fire. That pass rush was on fire. And the Bills just played an all-around great game, especially once they got into the final 15 minutes, because that's what it takes to beat a championship team like Kansas City. You got to have that championship DNA where you're not afraid to roll the dice and make some big boss decisions, because that's what Kansas City is willing to do. That's what it takes to beat this team. You got to take risks. You're not going to beat a team like Kansas City without having a few situations during the game where you got to roll the dice. That's why the Bills are the first team to say that they gave the Chiefs an L this year, and nobody else can say that, because the Bills did what other teams were afraid to do, take chances late in the game, and that's why they're walking out with the win. Now, Josh Allen, I don't believe that this game alone propels him as the MVP favorite over Lamar Jackson. But it definitely helps his MVP case if he can continue to play at a high level as he has for the majority of this year. Then if the Bills end up being in the conversation to get the 1 seed over the Ravens and the Chiefs, I say give it to Josh Allen. But the Bills haven't already have lost to Baltimore, and Josh Allen getting severely outplayed by Lamar in that game. I still don't feel like he has that big of an edge when it comes to his MVP argument over Lamar. I still feel like Lamar Jackson is the front runner, but games like this show you why you can't just, overlook Josh Allen in that MVP debate, because that 26-yard run to me was one of the biggest plays of the season. I know that, it wasn't as spectacular as what Garrett Wilson's one-handed catch Thursday night against the Texans was, but this was one of the best plays of the year, because you have an elite quarterback that's going up against Patrick Mahomes, who's supposed to be the kryptonite to everybody in the league, and yet he steps up takes the game in his hands, not only gets the first down, but he wins it for Buffalo. He breaks a couple of tackles. That was one of the more impressive plays that I've seen this season, because it was the play that the Bills had to have happen if they were going to win this game. If Josh Allen doesn't score that touchdown on 4th and 2 and you end up still having to settle for a field goal, who says that the Chiefs don't win this game? You know, that play right there is what won this game for the Buffalo Bills. And I'm so happy now that, you know, us as NFL fans now have a little bit of a reason to relax, and you know, there's actually a team out there that has what it takes to beat the Chiefs. Now it doesn't look like it's guaranteed the Chiefs are going to three-peat. Now, after the game, Mahomes was whispering something to Josh Allen's ear. He probably was saying, hey, man, like, you're never going to see you again in the postseason. Josh Allen's like, I'm counting on it. The question is now, okay, Josh Allen, you're 4-1 against Patrick Mahomes in the regular season, but what are you going to do come postseason? Are the Bills good enough to take down the Chiefs in the playoffs when it really matters the most? Because in the grand scheme of things, yeah, it feels good to beat the Chiefs, give them their first ass whooping of the year, but are you going to do it when it counts? Because Kansas City doesn't really care about the regular season. After the game, Patrick Mahomes was like, you know, it's a little bit of, you know, some pressure off our backs because now we don't got to worry about trying to be undefeated and whatnot. Now we can play a little bit more loose. Like, you can tell that Kansas City, they're coasting through the regular season. In the playoffs, though, you're going to see a way different team than what you've seen throughout the regular season, which is why you can never use the regular season to define Kansas City, because they're one of those teams that once they get into the postseason, they just flip that switch and they play a different brand of football. So congratulations to the Buffalo Bills on getting a very big win. Now if Kansas City has a couple of more losses and you keep winning, you can end up getting home field advantage throughout the playoffs, which is greatly going to help you, because you rather have to play Mahomes at home versus having to go on the road and play him in his building, because we know how tough it is to win on an Arrowhead. But at the same time, having home field advantage, I don't really think it's that big of an advantage per se, because we saw the Bills have home field advantage last year against Kansas City, and Mahomes still walked into their trap and took it over. So we'll see. I think that you can't really form an opinion about, you know, how far both of these teams are going to go in the playoffs based off this game. I'm not going to say the Chiefs are the best team. I'm not going to say that the Bills are the best team in the NFL after winning this game, because it's just one game. And they did get outclassed by the Baltimore Ravens. I just think when you play against Kansas City, you just tend to play your best football, because something about playing against Mahomes and the Chiefs, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, just brings the best out of the opponents that the Chiefs play for some reason. But now that they got this loss, I think that you're going to see a team that, you know, they play a little bit more looser, and I still think the Chiefs finish this season off getting the 1 seed in the AFC. How about the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix absolutely slaughtering the Atlanta Falcons today, 38-6 with the final score? I watched the first half of this game, and once it was 21-6, I flipped on another game because I saw everything that I needed to see. Bo Nix has arrived, people. Bo Nix has arrived, people. I thought I was watching Drew Brees 2.0 today. The way that he was carving up the Falcons defense, he went 28-33, 307 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. And what's scary is that Bo Nix in his last 4 games has 9 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. It's funny how when the Broncos drafted Bo Nix in the first round, people were saying that it was a reach. You can't draft a quarterback like Bo Nix that high when he only threw checkdowns at Oregon. But Sean Payton saw something special in Bo Nix that made him go, you know what? I want to make sure I can do everything possible to make sure that no other team drafts this kid, because he's a perfect fit in my system. And you see, sometimes it's not always about talent. Sometimes it's just about scheme fit. Who can execute your offense to your liking? And that's why Bo Nix is thriving with the Denver Broncos. You see a lot of people where they go wrong when it comes to evaluating these quarterbacks. They always look at who has the strongest arm, who's the most athletic, and they overlook who goes to the right situation. Out of all the quarterbacks that got taken in the first round, I felt like Bo Nix landed with the best head coach out of all of them, because Sean Payton is one of the greatest offensive minds in the history of this game. And there was a lot of disrespect being shown towards Sean Payton based off how he chose to end his relationship with Russell Wilson. But with how well Bo Nix has played for the last 4 games, it looks like the Broncos are going to be in the playoffs this year. We don't know where they're going to be seeded. They could be a 7th, 6th, or 5th seed, but with this win against Atlanta, it proves that the Broncos are a sure thing to be in the postseason, because not only was Bo Nix and his offense clicking, but the Broncos defense was swarming. I mean, they were everywhere in this game. They got 3 sacks on Kirk Cousins and their interception. They held Bijan Robinson to only 35 rushing yards, and Bijan Robinson has had a very good year for the Falcons. But this is the worst performance that Atlanta's offense has had all season. Worse than how they looked week 1 when they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I felt like this was a very important game for both of these teams, because it was going to show what we can expect from both of these ball clubs moving forward, because we know that the Falcons are going to win the NFC South. It's the weakest division in the NFL. And 2, once they get to the playoffs, they probably are going to be a first-round exit. I can't see the Falcons going past the wild card round because they don't have a defense that's reliable. We saw that with the Atlanta Falcons today, when they need their defense to keep them in games, they're not going to be able to step up to the challenge. Their defensive coordinator, Jimmy Lake, he needs to get fired. I don't know why Raheem Morris hired this dude in the first place. He wasn't a good defensive coordinator when he was at Washington. He was actually a really bad head coach as well. And he just doesn't do a really good job at communicating what he needs from his players. And the Jimmy Lake hire just was a really bad decision by Raheem Morris, and it is severely costing the Atlanta Falcons games because, look, you can't expect the Falcons offense to put up 28 points in every game. But your defense, if it's at least average, you could be the second best team in the NFC right now. And the Broncos derailed the Atlanta Falcons hype train because me and a good amount of people we're thinking that the Falcons could somewhat be a dark horse Super Bowl contender. We was thinking that, depending on their matchups, they could end up making it to the conference championship game. But after the day, with your defense just getting carved up, you can't generate a pass rush. You can't stop nobody to save your life when it comes to throwing the football. Everybody just tends to rack it up when it comes to passing yards against you. The Falcons are going to be a one-and-done playoff team, because their defense just can't be trusted to win games and get crucial stops when it matters the most. And once you get into the playoffs, you can't expect to win every game getting into a shootout, because the Falcons are one of those teams that the way they're built to win high-scoring games. But when they get into games where their offense isn't that good and they need their defense to carry the load, they don't win. This is why they only have one win against a team above 500, and that came early in the season against the Philadelphia Eagles. But ever since then, anytime they played against a playoff team, they've come up short. And this game against the Broncos showed what the Falcons are going to be once they get into the playoffs. If they got to play the Packers or the 49ers or even the Los Angeles Rams, they're going to lose, because this defense can't be trusted to get big stops in crucial moments. Now, if the Falcons can win every game 38-35, 42-38, then they could make a little bit of a playoff run. They could make some noise in the postseason, but realistically, you can't win every game that way. You got to be able to rely on your defense to bail you out when your offense gets out to a slow start. And the Falcons got blown out so bad that you could turn on this game with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and you will see Michael Penix in that quarterback. Yeah, we actually got a little bit of a glimpse of Michael Penix, and it wasn't really nothing to have an opinion about, but it was just like, okay, like, Michael Penix is finally in. Okay, like, all right. That was one positive to take away from this game if you're a Falcons fan. You finally got your first glimpse of Michael Penix in regular season action, although there's not too much to take away from it. It's just, you saw Michael Penix. But overall, I felt like this game was going to be a test for both of these two teams because both of these teams haven't been good against teams above 500. And whoever won this game, it will further show how far they could go for the rest of this season. And for the Broncos, it looks like they are going to be a playoff team. We don't know if they can beat somebody in the wild card round. I think that their best matchup in the first round of the playoffs could be against the Steelers, a team that their offense a little bit up and down. They do got a great defense, but I think the Falcons, if they play anybody in the first round, their best matchup is probably going to be going up against a team like the Arizona Cardinals, somebody whose defense isn't really that great. They rely more on their offense to win, because if the Falcons go up against any team that's defense has somewhat of a heartbeat, they're going to lose because their defense can't keep them in ball games. So therefore, they need their offense to outscore everybody to win, and that's not really a winning formula for making a deep postseason run. One thing that really surprised me this week was how Anthony Richardson completely exploded against the New York Jets. So I guess all Anthony Richardson needed after all was a little bit of time to rest on the bench. When he tapped out a few weeks ago, it was a sign that, hey, like, I need you to bench me for 2 games so I can, go in the mirror, reevaluate myself, and come back a better quarterback. Because with this being the best game that we've ever seen out of Anthony Richardson from a passing standpoint, 20 of 30, he had 3 total touchdowns, 2 on the ground that came in the red zone. One of those touchdown runs was the game winner. He also had a nice passing touchdown as well. He threw for 272 passing yards. And what was so impressive about Anthony Richardson in this game wasn't that he played well, it's that he actually delivered with the game on the line. This is the situation that defines if you have a true franchise quarterback or not. Because you live for the situation where you need a touchdown to win, and the ball is in the hands of the guy that you invested a first-round pick into last year. These are the kinds of situations that define if you actually have a legitimate quarterback of the future. And it looks like the Colts might have that in Anthony Richardson. I mean, that game-winning drive was absolutely spectacular. He throws a bomb to Alex Pierce, then right after that throws a dot to Josh Downs to get them in scoring range. He runs for the eventual game-winning touchdown, and he ends the Colts' 3-game losing streak. If you're a Colts fan, you got to have a really big grin on your face, because not only are you walking away with a win, but you're walking away with a reason to continue to believe in your young quarterback, Anthony Richardson. Because when he got benched, there was a lot of talk about, is he a bust? Can he even play? The dude has had the lowest completion percentage of any starting quarterback in the league in the last decade. There were a lot of question marks about Anthony Richardson and what his future with this franchise was going to be. And this game was a great opportunity for him to silence some of the noise. And not only does this win kind of put the Colts season back on track, but it also is a reason to believe that they can get into the playoffs, because now you only play 2 teams that have winning records, that being the Lions and the Broncos, to close out the season. And the other 4 games that you play are against the worst teams in the NFL, the Patriots, the Titans, the Giants, the Jags. The Colts could finish 9-8, 10-7, and sneak into the postseason as a 7th or 6th seed if Anthony Richardson continues to play at this level. And I felt like making the decision to go back to Anthony Richardson made a lot of sense, because if you're going to lose games and you're going to have to deal with turnovers, you rather lose games and have turnovers from Anthony Richardson. Let him get that development. You can't tolerate bad play out of a veteran quarterback. You hold a guy like Joe Flacco to a higher standard than you do Anthony Richardson, because Anthony Richardson is young. He's going to make mistakes. That's what young quarterbacks do. Veteran quarterbacks are expected to take care of the football and be consistent. And you didn't get that level of play out of Joe Flacco. But over the last 2 weeks when Flacco was in, it looks like Anthony Richardson was actually taking notes. He was actually trying to get better. He was trying to grow from that experience. And it's paid off dividends because he delivers a great performance. And you take down a New York Jets team that I didn't even expect you to beat. I thought that the Jets were going to be able to win this game solely based off the fact that Anthony Richardson hasn't been a reliable passer. But he proved me, and I think everybody in the NFL wrong, because if you can play this well and you can actually make the easy passes, you can make the layups and also make the difficult throws, why can't Anthony Richardson turn the season around for the Colts and get them to the playoffs? I think that benching was something that was necessary for Anthony Richardson because they pretty much handed him the starting job. Last year, he wasn't expected to beat out Gardner Minshew, and if he was that inconsistent throwing the ball during the games, he was probably doing the same thing in practice. The Colts coaching staff was saying the only way we're going to help this dude develop is by giving him meaningful experience. But with him tapping out, wanting to sit out of the play, you had to bench him because you had to send a message to the locker room that, hey, what he did is unacceptable. This is not the culture that we're trying to build. We want everybody to be all in, giving 110% effort. You're not tapping out. You have that never say die attitude. And for Anthony Richardson to have to go through that and respond in this fashion gives you a lot of reasons to be optimistic about what he can become next year. I still think that we're going to see some more inconsistent performances out of Anthony Richardson, but at least after this game, you have a glimpse of what he could be if he's able to put it all together, because not only was he good throwing the football and, really good inside the red zone, but I think that he's really good at evading pressure, buying time for guys to get open. He was looking like what a lot of Colts fans envisioned him becoming, somewhat similar to what Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are. And that's what he looked like in this game today against the New York Jets. I get it that the New York Jets are a dumpster fire. They're a poorly coached team, but you got to give your hat off to Anthony Richardson, man. They say pressure either bursts pipes or makes diamonds, and Anthony Richardson was a diamond in the rough today in the Colts' 28-27 win over the New York Jets. It's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. Life is 10% about what happens to you and 90% about how you respond. And Anthony Richardson responded in a major way. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Indianapolis Colts get hot, maybe pull off an upset against the Broncos or the Detroit Lions and rally into the postseason. This was an incredible performance out of Anthony Richardson, and one that he definitely needed to have to give this organization confidence in his development. The Baltimore Ravens lost 18-16 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I feel like the Ravens felt Lamar Jackson in this loss, because the second play of the game, Derrick Henry fumbles the football, the Steelers get a field goal out of it. And then later on, you have Isaiah Likely, who gets his lunch money took by Patrick Queen. He gets the ball ripped from him. And then later on in the game, after Russell Wilson throws a costly interception in the red zone, it looks like the Ravens are about to drive down the field, score, regain control of the ball game. Justice Hill allows rookie linebacker Peyton Wilson to snatch the ball from him, and it ends up resulting in an interception on Lamar. And I'm just looking at that play the whole time like, dude, how do you allow a linebacker to snatch a reception from you? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Not only do you have Isaiah Likely and Peyton Wilson giving up their lunch money for free, but you got Justin Tucker, the most accurate kicker in NFL history, whiffing on 2 field goals early in this game, and the offensive line just completely sucked. You cannot put this loss on Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson played as good as a game as what you can, given the circumstances around him just completely failing. The offensive line couldn't give this brother a clean pocket all afternoon. The Steelers were just harassing Lamar Jackson. It's like Mike Tomlin and their defensive coordinator, they were sending 7-8 guys every play. I've never seen Lamar Jackson look so rattled and uncomfortable in the ball game. For the majority of this season up to this point, Lamar Jackson has been pretty much unstoppable. But it looks like the Steelers actually are Lamar Jackson's kryptonite, because every time the Ravens play against Pittsburgh, this team always falls apart around Lamar. You can't blame Lamar Jackson for Justin Tucker's 2 missed field goals. That was 6 points off the board. Those 6 points were the difference in this game, because if Justin Tucker makes at least one of those field goals, the Ravens are walking out with the win. But instead, he misses them. Meanwhile, Chris Boswell is the most valuable player for the Steelers offense, because he was scoring all the points for him. All 18 of the points that the Steelers scored today were thanks to Chris Boswell. And it shows you how important it is to have a good kicker. Lamar Jackson, I don't think he could have played any better. The team around him just failed him. You got guys dropping passes. It was the same story last year when Lamar Jackson played against Pittsburgh. Everybody wanted to blame Lamar, saying he had a bad performance when you had guys dropping passes. It always tends to be the same story with the Baltimore Ravens when they play Pittsburgh. This team just doesn't play well. I'm not going to blame this loss on Lamar. I felt Lamar played a good game. Even late in the fourth quarter, this dude is running around, just completing all kinds of impossible passes. And then, you end up scoring, but you don't get the 2-point conversion to tie the game up. And that's when you knew that, the Ravens just let down Lamar. And I'm impressed how Lamar Jackson is never throwing his teammates or coaches under the bus, because if I was Lamar Jackson, I would have did it after this loss. I don't know how you couldn't be frustrated if you are LJ, because you're doing everything you can to win, but yet it seems like your team around you is doing everything to lose. Your defense actually showed that they can be serviceable against the average or above average offense, because, your defense can't play no better holding a team to nothing but field goals, coming away with the crucial red zone interception. And for you to get that big interception and Justice Hill to allow Peyton Wilson to just snatch the ball from him, it was the epitome of what the Ravens have been every time they play the Pittsburgh Steelers. They just don't play good football. Everybody's going to try to make it seem like Lamar didn't play well when the team around him just failed him. Now, on the Steelers side of things, listen, as a Steelers fan, I'm still not getting on that Super Bowl bandwagon. I still believe this is a team that's good enough to win a playoff game, but I don't know how deep they can go in the playoffs after that. I'm not saying that they don't have a chance at being a Super Bowl contender, but right now, you need to get more out of Russell Wilson in these kinds of games, man. He damn near gave the game away with that interception. The defense was phenomenal. They neutralized Lamar Jackson. They stopped him from getting the game-tying 2-point conversion. But you're not going to win a lot of games in the postseason if Chris Boswell is your best weapon on offense. As good as he is, and as important as what it is to have a kicker as consistent and reliable as what Chris Boswell is, this offense has to do more. I'm not that impressed with these 2 wins that the Steelers have gotten these last couple of weeks. Listen, I acknowledge that I was wrong about Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has proven to be a really good quarterback for Pittsburgh. Better than Justin Fields by a landslide. But in this game, I expected a little bit of a better performance against a Ravens secondary that is dead last in passing yards per game. I expected a little bit more out of Russell Wilson in this game. I want to see what he does when the Steelers play the Eagles and when they play the Bengals and the Ravens the second go around. I still have to see more out of Pittsburgh to hop on that Super Bowl bandwagon. I believe that this is going to be a team that wins a playoff game. They can make it to the second round. But I don't know if this is a team that can beat Kansas City or the Buffalo Bills. Maybe if you get the luxury of playing the Ravens in the second round of playoffs, you could get to the AFC Championship, because every time the Ravens play Pittsburgh, Lamar Jackson shows up, but the rest of the team, they just seem to be asleep in the locker room, it seems like. I mean, that offensive line was absolutely dreadful, and the Ravens' offensive line has played pretty well for the majority of this year. But this is the worst game that this team has had all around, minus Lamar Jackson. I felt like the coaching wasn't that good. The play calling could have been a lot better. This just wasn't a good game for the Baltimore Ravens, and you can't put this loss on Lamar Jackson. You just can't. We got a new favorite for NFL MVP. According to the betting odds out there, Josh Allen has plus 150 odds to win NFL MVP over Lamar Jackson, who's at plus 175. I think that this is absolutely outrageous. This is blasphemy at its highest level because Lamar Jackson has outplayed Josh Allen for the entirety of this season. He even outplayed them when they went head-to-head, and the Ravens crushed the Bills 35-10 in an absolute beatdown. Lamar Jackson is second in the NFL in passing yards. He's tied for first in passing touchdowns. He's second in QBR. And he's had several games this season with a perfect passer rating. Meanwhile, Josh Allen, although he is playing good football, he's not playing at a high level as what Lamar is. Lamar Jackson, to me, has been, without a doubt, the best quarterback in the NFL this year. And I don't understand how one game where Josh Allen leads the Bills to a win over the Chiefs just elevates him over Lamar Jackson when Lamar Jackson has outplayed him in their head-to-head matchup and he has better numbers and statistics than Josh Allen. It just makes no sense how the betting market all of a sudden has made Josh Allen the favorite to win MVP over Lamar Jackson. The recency bias is absurd to me. And I'm not a Josh Allen hater. I love Josh Allen. Okay, that 26-yard beast mode run he had to seal the win for the Bills, hand the Chiefs their first L of the season, was impressive. But he has to string along more high-level games, more great performances, if he wants to be able to take home an MVP award, because Lamar Jackson has been the most consistent quarterback in the NFL when it comes to playing at an elite level in every game. Josh Allen has had a few off games, such as when they lost in blowout fashion to Lamar and the Ravens. So I just don't understand how now all of a sudden the Bills beating the Chiefs makes Josh Allen the favorite to win NFL MVP. He's been playing some good football. I'm not taking that away from him. The Bills, they've dealt with a good amount of injuries on both offense and defense. He's played like a top 3 quarterback. But it just makes no sense how one game just elevates him over Lamar when it comes to the front runner for MVP, when Lamar Jackson has outplayed him statistically and head-to-head. And the Ravens still have a good chance of being able to get the 1 seed. Everything that they want to accomplish is in front of them. If you can beat the Steelers the second time you play and get some more big wins, you can dethrone the Chiefs for the 1 seed. But I just don't see how beating Kansas City just automatically makes Josh Allen the front runner to win NFL MVP. And he didn't even play that good against the Chiefs. Lamar Jackson had a better game against Kansas City than what Josh Allen did. I'm not taking anything away from Josh Allen. He's a great quarterback, but we're being hella biased if we just are just going to elevate him over Lamar off one game when Lamar Jackson has been the better quarterback of the two for the majority of this season up to this point heading into week 12. It just is a little bit blasphemous to me that the betting market is shifting towards Josh Allen. Hell, I would bet $1,000 on Lamar Jackson winning NFL MVP. I love those plus 175 odds. You get more money with him being second behind Josh Allen than him being the favorite over Josh Allen. Listen, Josh Allen has been outstanding this year. I don't want you Bills fans to come in the comments saying, oh, you hate Josh Allen. I don't hate Josh Allen. What I hate is that we are incentivizing Josh Allen based off one game, and we're just going to ignore him getting outplayed by Lamar in the head-to-head matchup, and with Lamar Jackson outperforming him with better numbers and better statistics. Josh Allen hasn't had the amount of perfect passer rating games as what Lamar Jackson has had. He hasn't had a game when he's erupted for 5 touchdowns. You know, Lamar Jackson has outclassed Josh Allen every stretch throughout this season. And I just don't understand how all of a sudden beating Kansas City just elevates Josh Allen over Lamar. It's just fucking stupid to me. I'm tired of people trying to downplay Lamar Jackson's greatness. I really am. This is the most talented quarterback that ever put his hands on the football. We will never see a quarterback be as accurate as what Lamar Jackson is as a passer, coupled with the elite athleticism that he has when he has the ball in his hands and he chooses to scramble outside the pocket. I mean, we are being a little bit unfair to Lamar Jackson. Yes, he didn't have a great game against Pittsburgh, but his team let him down. He didn't play bad. The team around him played bad. Listen, I don't know how this MVP betting market odds works, but they need to go and readjust their system if they think that Josh Allen should be the front runner for MVP over Lamar Jackson. That's just insanity to me, man. Lamar Jackson has been unstoppable all season long. His team just fell apart against the Steelers. But when they played Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills, the Bills got their ass kicked along with Josh Allen, man. I'm just tired of people trying to downplay Lamar's success, man. This is just spitting in Lamar Jackson's face pretty much, because we know Lamar Jackson has been the best quarterback in the NFL this year. Even you Bills fans could admit it. You've seen it firsthand when the Ravens stomped you early during the season. Come on, man. Lamar Jackson should be the front runner, and I really would be upset if Josh Allen ends up taking away what rightfully deserves to be Lamar Jackson's third MVP. I got a few more things I want to talk about before we get up on out of here. This is pretty late. I don't want to keep on dragging this out. Shout out to my guy N Sparks in the comment section. He says, "Sup JT, Pittsburgh Steelers for life." Hey man, I was wrong about Russell Wilson. I don't know how many times I gotta say it. I was wrong, but I expected a little bit more out of Russell Wilson today. You know, he almost sold the game with that red zone interception. And with the Baltimore Ravens having the worst pass defense in the league, I just expected a little bit of a better performance out of Russell Wilson. But listen, man, the Ravens let down Lamar Jackson today. Be honest, N Sparks. Be honest. When you got Derrick Henry fumbling the second play of the game, you got Justice Hill and Isaiah Likely getting their lunch money took. You can't put that on Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson wasn't responsible for Derrick Henry fumbling, Justice Hill getting the ball snatched from him by Peyton Wilson. I don't put this loss on Lamar. This team felt Lamar Jackson. I mean, come on, N Sparks. Justin Tucker is the most accurate kicker in NFL history, and he whiffed on 2 field goals. 6 points was the difference in this game. Come on, I hold this loss on the Ravens, not Lamar Jackson. I mean, listen, if Lamar Jackson could have kicked field goals, I'm pretty sure he would have went out there and got it done. We got to put the blame for the Ravens losing this game on the rest of this team minus Lamar Jackson. Because listen, I don't get how you can be the greatest kicker of all time and you just whiff on 2 field goals. It's not like they were 60, 70 yarders. They were fairly relative in distance that they were makeable. 51 yards out. There's a lot of kickers banging out these 50 yarders with ease. Like, I don't put this L on Lamar. I put it on the Ravens and the rest of the team for not showing up. Now, the Green Bay Packers beat the Chicago Bears for the 11th straight time in a row, 20-19. And just when you thought, start that over. The Chicago Bears continue to find ways to lose games, and they found another way to lose a game today, losing their 11th straight to the Green Bay Packers 20-19. Caleb Williams, who has struggled for the last month, engineered a really good final drive to set the Bears up with the 46-yard field goal attempt to win the game. He got sacked 2 times on the first couple of plays, but he was able to overcome those 2 sacks, and he threw 2 dimes to Rome Odunze. Then he found Keenan Allen on a nice throw, and then you put your team in position to win the game. And what do the Bears do? What they do best. Find new ways to lose. So you go for the 46-yard game-winning field goal, and of course, it gets blocked. And I wasn't surprised that it happened. As a matter of fact, I was telling all my homies in the group chat, hey, man, the Bears are about to get this field goal block. Watch, because one of my homies actually took the Chicago Bears to win outright. He took the Bears money line, and I told him, you were tripping. And he was like, nah, you tripping. Watch them make this field goal. And when they missed it, he didn't have anything to say. I told him, I told you so, because the Bears are just one of those teams that they're just cursed. I don't know if somebody put some black magic around this franchise where they're just cursed from being able to have a winning season. They're cursed from being able to have a good quarterback. But Caleb Williams did all you could ask of him. He gave you a chance to win the game, and you were unable to walk away with the W just because you're a poorly coached team. When you have a team that constantly misses field goals, or they just don't perform well on special teams, especially in these kinds of situations where you need your kicker to bang out a game winner to win, it's a sign that you're a poorly coached team, because well-coached teams don't have situations where they get a game-winning field goal blocked. Unless you're going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, then that's just different. They just have something different around them that it just allows them to not lose games for some reason, unless they are playing against the Buffalo Bills. Before the Chicago Bears, you just have something weird floating around your organization where it's a virus that just doesn't allow this team to win games. They just find stupid ways to lose games every single week, from the Hail Mary against the Commanders to getting this 46-yard game-winning field goal block. You just are a team that doesn't know how to win. And when you're in a situation where you just can't buy a W, it's a clear indicator that your head coach has to go. And this game is further evidence that Matt Eberflus is a dead man walking. I don't know how Caleb Williams can have a good game, set you up for opportunity to win, and you still find a way to blow it. Come on, man. It's 46 yards out. You mean to tell me that you couldn't call a timeout and say, hey, man, let's make sure that everybody is doing their job. Make sure everybody, blocks the right person. Everybody knows their assignments. We don't allow any tomfoolery to happen. But instead, the Chicago Bears just say, you know what? Just go ahead and allow the Packers to beat us for the 11th straight time. Do you know that their head coach, Matt LaFleur, is undefeated against the Bears? Matt LaFleur has never lost a single game against Chicago Bears, and the Packers played them twice in the season. That's unheard of. At this point, you can't even call this game a rivalry anymore. Just because these are two of the most storied franchises in the NFL, they've been around in this league longer than anybody else, doesn't make this a rivalry, because this is a one-sided affair. Every time the Bears and the Packers play, it's guaranteed that the Chicago Bears are going to lose. And at this point, any game the Bears play, they're guaranteed to lose, because when you're allowing teams to get Hail Marys against you and block field goals to beat you, you're just cursed. You just can't win. So I don't know what it's going to take for the Chicago Bears to be able to buy a W, but even when Caleb Williams does play good football, they still lose. So that just shows that you just have a team that right now, nothing seems to be working. No matter if they play their best football, they find a way to lose. I thought that the Packers were going to blow out Chicago. I took them -5.5. So when they were able to keep this a one-possession game and they had the opportunity to win it, I just knew that they were going to come up short, because that's just what this team is. They just are cursed because they don't know how to win. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before we get up on out of here, when it comes to the most important positions in the NFL, we all know that you need to have a good quarterback, good pass rushers to be able to win in this league. But a position that constantly doesn't get talked about in terms of its importance to winning and losing, making deep playoff wins, being able to win in the Super Bowl, is kickers. Kickers oftentimes are the most overlooked position in this league, because nobody really thinks about how many kickers dictate wins and losses. Think about how many games this year teams have lost because they had a field goal kicker like Young-Ho Koo missed 3 field goals. Look what happened tonight on Sunday Night Football. Evan McPherson, who the Bengals just gave an extension to, by the way, before this season started, he missed 2 critical field goals that costed the Bengals that win against the Los Angeles Chargers on Sunday Night Football. Kickers are so underrated because oftentimes the margins of wins and losses are less than a touchdown. And there are a lot of games that end up being lost because you have a field goal kicker who ends up missing a game-winning field goal. He either sells it wide left, wide right, or it just completely hits the uprights and rattles out. These kickers are often the difference in a lot of teams winning and losing and costing coaches their jobs. If you have a good field goal kicker, it means that you can be trusted to win close games, because when you have a good field goal kicker, you know that no matter what the circumstance is, as long as you get in his distance, he can be trusted to win you the game. But when you have a kicker who you can't trust, who's inconsistent, then it makes it harder to win games, because you may not be comfortable, throwing him out there on 4th and 5. You might just be tempted to go for it because you don't have that confidence in him. When you have a kicker that you put him out there, he's reliable, he's willing to, do what it takes to bang out these game winners. You have a kicker who kind of tilts you being able to win and lose these games in your favor. But when you don't have a trusted kicker, it costs you a lot of games. And you saw that today when the Ravens played the Pittsburgh Steelers. Justin Tucker's 2 missed field goals were the difference in the Ravens losing that game. Meanwhile, look at Chris Boswell. He was the Steelers MVP in that win. He scored all of their damn points. He didn't miss a single field goal. That's why coaches like Mike Tomlin, Bill Belichick, they can be defensive-minded coaches, still win not having good offenses, but win because they have good defenses and great special teams because they have a reliable field goal kicker. Having a kicker who you can trust allows you to win close games. You can't win close games if you don't have a kicker who can make those late game sealing wins, those game-winning field goals. Having a kicker is really important. And when you don't have one, you put yourself at a disadvantage. You kind of handicap yourself to a certain extent. So I think the kicker position is incredibly underrated, and a lot of people don't really talk about the importance of having a good kicker in this league. But this is it for this episode of JT Sports Live. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Shout out to my guy Pays and Plays podcast. Shout out to M Spark. Shout out to everybody that tuned in. Before we get up on out of here, make sure that you smash that like button, you subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications if you're new. Give us a 5-star review if you enjoyed this episode. The link is down in the description down below, or wherever you get your podcast from, Apple, Spotify, Amazon. All you got to do is type in JT Sports and it will pop up. If you have any questions that you would like us to answer on a future episode, you can send them in the DMs on Instagram at JT_Sports_ and on X at JT___. I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and I will see you guys Tuesday